Are we live yet? Are my audio settings set properly? Looks like it. So I wanted to make a video, and yeah, this is the lazy way I make videos lately because I don't have time to edit videos. But I was on the interwebs watching videos, and of course I like the construction videos, and I was watching Kyle's cabin, which is pretty cool. I like this young man. He's pretty good. He's a nice guy. He lacks some experience, obviously, and I want to talk about that a little bit, and just about content that's being placed on the internet just as a whole. And today's subject is Caulk is not flashing. So I will keep up with the comments in the comment section, and also if you want to join in, there's a link to a Hangout. It's really just a meeting, my meet server. You can join there by clicking on that link if you want to ask a question, or you can leave a comment in the comment section and I'll check the comments. But I'm always looking around for different people to watch, different videos to watch, and I came across this one, Kyle's cabin. Now he's a cool young man, like I said. He's doing a good job. There's just a few things I think really need to be said, because I keep clicking on this and it doesn't go to where I want it. I think the internet is a wonderful place, but there's so much content on the internet, it's hard for people to get to. If you're going to do this for yourself, there's too much content that has to be filtered through. And if you don't, what am I trying to say? If you don't know what you're looking for, you won't find it because of all of the clutter on the internet. Okay, so this is my attempt to put good information, and my information is based on 40 years of experience in the construction industry. My whole basically life basically my whole life has been spent in the construction industry. I grew up in it. I grew up working in the summers on construction sites. I went to a trade school in high school, a building trade school. I've invested my entire life. I became a certified building inspector when I was in my 20s. I'm certified by the Construction Specifications Institute as a construction document technologist, whatever that means. So, and then just the 40 years of experience with this industry. So I don't claim to be an expert at anything really, but at some point you have to seek knowledge in your industry, and I'm always doing that. And when I come across things like this, I just feel like at some point content on the internet has to be kind of balanced, right? So when you see a young man building his own cabin out in the woods and you say, oh, I'd love to go build my cabin, let me show you how to do it properly without wasting your money. Because honestly, that's what this is, basically a waste of time and money, because this T111 siding is not cheap anymore. The windows are not cheap. Nothing about this is cheap now. So when you install these products, you want to make sure you're doing it properly. Let's go see if anybody is watching. See if anybody has any comments. It's kind of early on Sunday morning. I don't expect there to be that many people watching. But we're going to go over, this is actually part of another video that I made on why shipping containers make no sense. I built a little cabin, which I may build for myself in the woods, And I actually did a materials list for this and showed how you could get all the framing and decking and Tyvek. At the time I made the video, you could get it for the same price as a good shipping container. And it's also 12 feet wide, which I think is the minimum human living condition as far as a width. It is the same length. But anyway, that's just a little backstory on that. So I took components from that little build, and just to show how these windows should be installed. First of all, we should start off by saying that we have, well, let me start off by saying this is Medic's wall extension here. Very, very cool. Check out Nathan Wilkerson's creations. He's got wall, truss, foundation extensions, and I use them extensively. Of course, I kind of customize things as I go along. Like, you know, obviously all of this is done manually. To give you an example, when you draw a wall from with his extension, you have all these parameters here on the right here, and you'll draw a wall, you know, that way, and then you see you get your studs, your sheeting, you see your OSB, and then your siding. And that's kind of one of the points I want to make, is that about that. But let me just continue, and I'll show you. If I go to Medic wall and I want to put a window in, it's very simple. You see, it'll cut the hole for it, it'll frame it out, put the header. We actually box our headers out. We do them like this, especially if they're only 3 feet wide, like a typical. We do them like that, and then we put a 2x on the top too. And on a regular 8-foot wall, the header's all the way up to the top. But anyway, that's a minor detail. You can set all that stuff in the parameters. You can set the header heights, how they're built, whether they have, you know, top and bottom, 2x. All that's really awesome. And Nathan has done a really good job on this. And so anyway, but you know, it doesn't show you, obviously, he shows a lot of the building components, but obviously he doesn't get into flashing and all that kind of stuff. So if you want details like that, you'll have to do it manually. But that's kind of the point here, is that if you want to learn, there are resources on how to do this stuff, and it's a little frustrating for me. Even after 40 years of experience, I started in 1978 actually, so it's a little over 40 years, I guess. But once you hit that point, you kind of stop counting, I guess. But let me see if anybody's watching. Hey, Vanessa Kitty, you should jump into the link there and give your comments, give your opinion. What I'm kind of talking about is this idea that, you know, we have so much content on the internet that's really, well, in this case, you know, the T111 was applied directly over the studs, which is fine. It's kind of an old spec house thing to do with no sheeting, because it's kind of a sheeting itself, and that's fine. But the problem is there's no way you could put Tyvek behind it. The other thing I want to talk about is how there's no flashing here at that joint. That's a bad idea, but I'm not going to criticize what that young man's done. I'm just going to show you how to properly do it. So getting back to this, we've got our framing, we've got our OSB on the outside. The OSB plays an important function for bracing the wall. That's its most important function. And the other function is to give you a surface to apply your weatherproof membrane, which is your Tyvek, which I highly recommend. DuPont invented the whole technology behind these membranes. They're woven, basically like a woven fabric that allows, I guess it's propylene. It's woven so that it allows water vapor to escape, but not water droplets to go into the house. So it allows it to breathe to a certain extent. And if you can go see old videos of where Tyvek was testing this, and they'll do tests on it, and it's very interesting. But you see, if you're a student of the trade, that's the kind of research you'll do. You'll always be searching for knowledge. You'll always be trying to learn. So I'm going to show you a quick method. You would install your Tyvek like this. Now, when we install our Tyvek, we don't cut it out like this. There's two different schools of thought on this, and the best thing to do is just to go watch Tyvek's video on how this is installed. Back when it first came out, we would wrap the opening. We would cut an X right here, right? We cut a big X. In other words, the Tyvek is still installed. Am I going to do this right? So no, I wasn't. Sometimes I don't get the right point. Anyway, you would cut a big X in the Tyvek, and then you would wrap those around inside the framing. And then at the top, you cut a little cut like this on either side. Again, I'm not going to go into huge detail because I got too much to do, but you cut a flap like that, and then your window goes up underneath that. So let's put our window. We'll pretend like we're installing our window. What did I do? Go 6 feet? Yeah, 6 feet. Okay. And then that flap that you cut, that angled cut, goes on top of the fin, the nailing fin of your window. Okay. So you got your window in, and the other little mistake I saw him doing is setting the window on the sill, the rough sill. You don't do that. You leave a gap. You'll have shims here, because you'll want at least a 1/4 inch gap, and that's how windows are made. Vinyl windows are made what we call to the call size. So this would be like 5040, and that would actually be your rough opening with a vinyl window, 5 foot by 4 foot, or whatever the call size is. And they make the windows 1/2 inch undersized so that they will fit in there, and you'll have a 1/4 inch gap all the way around. That allows you to insulate your little spray foamy, non-expanding foam to go in that crack. See if I have any questions. We are rebuilding a shower. The original build never grouted properly or used cement board. Oh, that's sad. That's a bad one when they didn't use any kind of protection behind the tile or anything. What do you think about Tudor style house? Do you think it is smart design with current? Well, do you mean the houses without overhangs? No, I don't like houses without overhangs. But anyway, so we take our little flap that we cut, and we lap it over that, and now we take our Tyvek tape, okay? And I'm not doing this 100%. I'm just trying to show you that it's different than what's shown in the video. Is this 6 feet? Oh, shoot. That was 8 feet, wasn't it? I had these set up to where I could just move them back a certain amount, and I forgot what it was. 8 feet. There we go. So you got your window tape. You got your tape over the nailing fin of your window, okay? That tape is Tyvek tape, and it's made to stick to and seal to your Tyvek. So now look, and what you do is you put your two side pieces on. Well, actually, you put your bottom piece on. Let's do this properly. Put your bottom piece on, then you put your two side pieces on, overlapping. You see, it's hard to show. This piece is overlapping that piece, okay? So water runs down, it's overlapping that one, and it laps onto the Tyvek. Up here, this top piece then overlaps the side pieces, okay? And it closes off that gap, that cut. That cut is not quite that big. By the time you tape it all, that cut you made to get that flap over your flange. Because see, water runs down the Tyvek, runs on top of the tape, runs on top of this, and then we're going to do something special in a minute. Okay. Now, let's see, where are we? Oh, we have our head flashing for our window, okay? So what you'll do is you'll take your head flashing, put it on next, where was that, 8 feet? 10 feet. Okay, now this Z flashing, okay, I have it, I have a roofing and supply company that makes mine up. So what it does is it goes up the wall an 1.5 inches or so, okay. It comes out over the top of your window. The reason you have to have this made sometimes is because you have to customize the length of this drip. And I usually let it hang over a little, maybe a 30-second, because they never get this right, it seems like. So, and it doesn't hurt to have that little reveal there like that, okay? And you just set it up there, okay? Because what you're going to do, you're not going to put any nails in that, okay? You're going to put tape, more Tyvek tape, okay? Is that 10 feet? Yeah, okay? So then you tape that, the top of that, because guess what? Water runs down the Tyvek, it runs over the tape, it runs onto your flashing, and out over the top of your window. Boom, no water. Okay. Now, what's next? Your window trim. Is this 12 feet? I know people are saying window trim now. Yeah, 12 feet. Okay. The reason I'll show you, and this will all become clear, and you'll be like little Yoda running around. You'll be a siding Yoda, a window Yoda. You see, you want your window trim to go on next for a reason, because now you're going to have a place to put Z flashing on your trim before you put your siding up. Okay, so you got and isn't that looking cool? Isn't that looking nice? Well, if you do a window properly, it's going to look so professional that you'll do nothing but stand around and gaze at your windows all day. How cool they are. Let's see, I think this was 12 feet too. Yeah. Now, got a little piece of tape to hold on. That's right, we don't use nails. What happened to my tape? It got out of position somehow. Okay. We don't use nails to install our head flashing or our Z flashing, okay? We don't want to run nails. That's what the tape is for, okay? So now, if water gets behind your siding, it comes down on the tape, comes out over the Z flashing, over your trim. It comes down to this flashing, goes out, no caulk, caulkless. Your caulk is going to dry out and crack in 5, 10 years. I know you're saying I'll be pushing up daisies by then, but think of the future, man. Think of when aliens come to visit and say, wow, that guy, he knew how to install his siding. Now, I think this was 14 feet. Now we're finally to the point. I wanted to say one word about this Z flashing. What you do is you let this Z flashing for your window trim to hang over a little bit, like a quarter. I've seen some people go a half, but it looks kind of gaudy. You want that head flashing to get out past this juncture of your siding going against your trim, okay? And all you gotta do is cut a little slot in it. Okay, so now let's get back here where we can see, and we're gonna go back, I think it's 14 feet. Okay, now you finally got to where you can put your, and look how professionally done that is, okay? Yeah, you gotta cut a little slot right there so this can go, but guess what happens when you have a deluge, water comes down your siding. Look here, okay, I'm just going to tell you, T111 is the worst siding pretty much ever made. What's your take on 3D printed homes? I don't think they've evolved to where they match the quality of a conventionally built home yet. If you actually go look at how they're doing it, it's kind of, here's the thing, who said that? Who said that? Just Al? Just AI or just Al? I always get those letters mixed up. Just AI, artificial intelligence. If they had a guy walking around behind the 3D printer each course that they laid down, and they had some kind of reinforcing, it like a lateral, like we do in concrete block. So you got me sidetracked now. What's it called? Ladder. We call them lateral reinforcing concrete block. Here we go. Yeah, let's show images. You see these things? Look here. See how we laterally reinforce concrete block? You see that, and until 3D printing realizes that they're not like Elon Musk, and they think that they're God's gift to the universe, and they start thinking about structural issues. No. So if they had a guy walking around behind, and I've actually was going to invent this, where you had, excuse me, like a carbon fiber ladder, horizontal wall reinforcement, and it came in rolls, and you just had either a machine, another robot going behind that first, the 3D printer, the huge 3D printer, laying this down in between courses, then I'd go for it. But until they evolve to match this, modern construction, it's not actually modern. I found out the hard way that 3D printing is actually in its infancy, and it hasn't matched the quality. It's like when we were first trying to 3D print guns, they would blow up, obviously. So anyway, so you got me sidetracked. What's your name? Just Al. So anyway, what I was going to say is that this T111 is really the devil's gift to the earth, because what it is it's just plywood that's grooved out. And I tried to show this a little bit. It's just plywood. It's hard to show this in. It's actually probably easier to type in T111 grooves. See if we can get some of that going. You see, let's see, where's a good picture? Right here. You see, all they do, this is one thing I hate about, I guess it's going to show me. All they do with T111 is just plywood grooved out to make it look like it's got a board and batten. It's just a cheap board and batten look, okay? I'm trying to zoom in. There we go. You see, and so what that does is it exposes those little laminates. You see these little, so what happens is if you search T111 delaminating images, you'll see what happens is, and it's really bad at the bottom. Where's a good picture? Where's a good picture? What happens is the water gets between those layers of laminate, and of course there's never a good picture when I want one. This is kind of, well, yeah, right there. See how that laminate is coming loose? That's not a good picture. Anyway, you get it. I think you get the picture. I can't find the picture, but I think you get it. So what happens is, water, if you don't have this, first of all, water's going to eventually damage your siding because nobody really seals it good enough to protect these because most painters will either spray this or use a roller, and you can't get back in those little grooves good enough to protect it, especially that little side grain right there. And water will get in there, especially down here where you cut it. So the factory does a good job of pretty much sealing this off, and the painters do. But where you cut it, the water, will be absorbed into the end grain, and that's when it starts delaminating. So T111 is not really that great of a siding. The reason people use it is because it can be used as a sheeting and a siding. You see, it's kind of the lazy man's way to get a sheeting, a wall sheeting. It braces your walls because it is a plywood, and it has the little grooves that make it, look like a siding, like a board and batten. It's kind of what it's supposed to mimic. But you see, this little joint right here is supposed to have Z flashing, and I did a little mock-up here to show you. In between, wherever you have two sheets meet, vertically like this, they actually make, and this is something you don't have to have custom made, is a Z flashing that goes there. Okay, it sits on top of the one below it, and then it receives the one above it, and water can't get in that groove, in that gap right there. So if you ever see T111 and you see two pieces joining together like this, where you've got a horizontal joint and you don't see anything there, that's bad story. If you're going to go to buy a house and you're looking at it and it has T111, and sadly this doesn't have it, because what it is it's kind of shine. Unfortunately, it's kind of a metally looking, mill finish looking metal, and you'd see it going across there. So again, caulk is not flashing. Okay, caulk is an aesthetic thing that we put up. You can use it to seal out air, but really, Tyvek tape, your weatherproofing membrane, and the tape system that comes with it is how you should be sealing out air. You shouldn't have to buy one tube of caulk when you're building a house. You shouldn't. Let's see if I've got any comments. If you have to buy caulk, something's wrong with you. Yes, it's just Al. Well, I got bad news for you, Al. It doesn't take much. I'm a licensed general contractor and have been for over 20 years, and I've got 40 years in construction, and building inspectors are easy to fool. Okay? They're not easy to fool. The code is a minimum requirement. Okay? The code is basically there to protect public safety. It is not there to establish a quality standard. That's just the way it is. I'm actually a certified building inspector. If you go to my website, atdrafting.com, you will see down here at the bottom that I have my little certifications here. This is my prize one, my 1,000 hours of my building trade school when I was in high school. There's my National Association of Home Builder certificates. There's my 2 building inspector certifications. This is 1989 and 1991. This was building inspector. This is housing rehabilitation inspector. This is my construction specifications institute certification. And then I've got all this stuff. Now, I don't do this stuff to brag. I'm just saying that when you're listening and seeking advice from people, you need to seek out their qualifications. You wouldn't go get heart surgery from me, would you? No. So, saying something passes a code doesn't mean that it meets some quality standard. That's the kind of the first thing you learn. Look at all the spec builders like Jim Walter Homes and just all the cheap builders in the world that pass code and get certificates of occupancies. So I'm not criticizing you, just Al. I'm just saying that's not the 3D printed houses haven't been around long enough for us to study them, you know. And I'm just telling you that these 3D printed houses that are using the cement based, and they're going around and they're laying down. I'm gonna go get my little Yoda that I 3D printed out of my truck. Where's the conversation? I'm gonna go. I have a video. Since you brought it up, let's see if I go to my channel. Did I call it Yoda or Buddha? Yeah, 3D printing Buddha. Okay, watch this video. Okay, I'm gonna mute that. And what you'll see is this was 2013. Okay, keep going, keep going. Okay, I made this little Buddha to put matchsticks in. Okay, and so what it is, it's a Buddha with a little basket on the back. Look, see that row right there? I know what you're gonna say. Well, this isn't 2013. Well, man, the houses being 3D printed are basically in the same stage as this was. Now, look here. Let's go back. See this course right here? That course didn't, what this, you know, a 3D printer lays down just layers of plastic, ABS plastic, right? Well, if the printer head is not the right temperature and the plastic's not the right temperature and it doesn't lay it down in a proper order, those layers don't bond together. And it's the same thing when you're building a house with a 3D printer. Where'd you go? I got too many tabs open. I've been preaching too much. Too much preaching going on. Oh man, did I close the... I think I closed my live stream. Are you leaving?
Yeah.
All right, Lucian, be careful.
That's it. All right.
Did I lose my live stream? Am I still live streaming? Can y'all tell me? Now I'm watching my own live stream. Am I still here? So I lost the, I disconnected from the, I guess it doesn't really matter because I'm still live streaming. I'm not in the studio part of the live stream. I wonder how you get that back. Can I go here? Okay, cool. Did I just create a black hole by creating a circular reference? Yes, you're here. Thank you, Richard. All right, so here's the problem, and I wanted to kind of get back to this. First problem is First problem is this was done out of order. Okay, you want to have wall sheeting. Okay, again, that braces your wall. It gives you a platform for your Tyvek. Okay, I wonder if I can undo. Yeah, that gives you a platform for your Tyvek. Okay. The other thing is, now let me say this. I had these two videos up. Okay, you see how this window is up underneath the soffit really well. Okay. Now this window will probably never leak. Okay, but I had these two shots up because I wanted to show you the difference between them when he's, you see here, you see how thick these window flanges are? Okay, at the top of your window, if I can quit clicking on advertisements. Sorry. You see at the top of the window, that creates a separation, okay? So what happens is water runs down these grooves, okay? And it goes behind your window trim and your window flange. It's like a little tunnel. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places water is going to run down behind your window flange and your trim, okay? When you say, oh, I just caulk it, and that's what he says in the video. You can't caulk it effectively, okay? So on these gable ends where you have no protection over the windows, you see this roof is another story up in the air. By the way, you need to put your bar drafter on before you put your roofing on. That's another little faux pas. But anyway, the windows that are up underneath the soffit will survive, okay? These, when you have this other story above it, this soffit doesn't really give this window much protection. If the weather is even traveling in this direction, you don't even have to have wind, okay? If the weather is just coming in this direction, it will go against the wall. That's why we have siding and we don't just worry about this stuff. Water will come, run down those grooves. You would be better off, if you're not going to do your flashing properly on your windows, you would be better off using like a metal siding where you had J-channel all around your window. Because at least a J-channel does this, where at the top of your window, at least a J-channel would force the water over to the side of your window. Okay, so caulk is not flashing. I don't know how many times, and I know, and people get really kind of defensive about this. What happens on the internet, I've noticed after studying it I'm old enough to remember when it was first created by Al Gore, 14 feet. Did I already say feet? Is they get to where they feel they, like if I were to leave a comment based on what I'm saying, of course I can't leave comments this long. These people who are attached to this guy, who are subscribed to him, feel some kind of ownership of the content because they are subscribed to him. And this is a disease on the internet, okay? There's no objectivity anymore, and it's like you can't give your own 2 cents on content because of they're obviously called fanboys. Because they will come and troll you. I had this trouble with April Wilkerson. I made a video about her carport, and I showed how there were problems with it, and I still have people actually coming back to thank me for that years later. So those people who came back and thanked me were getting ready to build a carport and wanted my advice on how they should do it. And in some cases, they hired me to, and that's not the motivation for. Trust me, I have too much work, but they hired me to show them how to do it properly, right? But there's not enough content on the internet like what I'm trying to give. There's not enough people searching for the content. If this young man, and he's a nice young man, okay, if he had simply just done a search on how to install Windows, but we have this amount of pride, especially as men, we have this pride that we want to know. We just want to, especially on YouTube, we have to be the expert. We have to know. We have to try to, just like me now, I'm trying to present that I have knowledge. The coincidence is that in this particular case, I do have knowledge on this subject. So, anybody have any questions? I left a link up here. Now we're almost done. If you wanted to join in and ask questions, but I'm almost done now. But it's just one of those things when you're talking about siding systems. Just remember that caulk is not a flashing. Okay, caulk is not going to come in here and say you just have trim here. Caulk is not going to somehow magically come in here and go around these little, and just have a perfect path and work forever. You know why? Because first of all, this T111 is really, when you buy it, it has kind of a waxy, sometimes it'll have kind of a waxy coating, not waxy, but it's actually kind of hard to stain sometimes, and you'll see where it'll take stain darker in some areas than others. And when you try to caulk against it, it's not, the caulk can actually just come loose from it, okay? So what you're trying to achieve here is a positive drainage system where there's no way that water can come down and get behind your window trim, or when it comes down and get behind your window. Okay, your siding, honestly, your siding system is just a facade. Your house should be built to where you don't even need siding, right? This Tyvek, this right here, this Tyvek and this window tape and all this flashing, you could leave your house like that. You could. Now the people in your subdivision would dislike you. Your neighbors wouldn't like it. But you don't need the siding. If you build your house properly, you don't need it. It's just a facade. It's just something to paint or stain to look pretty. That's the way you should treat it, okay? If you approach your siding system that way, your house will never leak, but it will still breathe because you have the proper, if you have Tyvek there, right? So when you take shortcuts like this and you don't have sheeting, you say, well, darn, what did I do? I short-circuited the system, so now I don't have any choice. Now the difference is he had a choice here. He could have at least put Z-flashing between these vertical, because again, these gable ends are awful, right? All this exposure up here. Even if it gets any kind of wet at all, this plywood will become delaminated. It doesn't take it very long, Anyway, maybe I'm repeating myself now too much, and I don't have any more questions. So maybe I'll cut it there. I'm going to close that meeting out. Do I have any other comments? Now, I do recommend going and watching his videos. Kyle's Cabin. He's got, what has he got? He's got a pretty decent sized channel. He's got 54,000 subs and 6 million views. And he's building this cabin. It's pretty cool. I like the design of it. I like the fact that he's building it himself. He's just should have just done on some of the more important areas. Should have just done just a little more research, just a little bit more. And if you don't research anything at all, research how your siding and windows and doors are supposed to work, because that's the life of your house, right there, basically. All right, well, I'm going to stop preaching. Hello, Mad Sexy. If you just got here, you missed a good one. You'll have to go back and watch it from the beginning. So I want to thank everybody for watching, and I don't see any questions since I asked for questions, so I will assume y'all are tired of hearing from me, and I will go. It's almost lunchtime. I gotta have my apple and banana because I'm on a diet, and I've already lost 25 pounds. I just woke up. I woke up for some reason at 6:30 this morning, and I was wide awake. It might have had something to do with going to bed at 9 o'clock. But when you get 59 like me, you start thinking about sleep about 9 o'clock, and it feels good to go to bed early and get up early. Now, when I was younger, I used to make fun of old men. Now I understand them. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it.